Okay, this is our next video, and this is Unit 3, Lesson 11. This is dealing with using solids that we've learned for the past few days and building a structure using these solids. Okay, so in life we see these kind of things all the time. An example here is an Inukshuk, right, that you would see in Canada, and here we have some solids that placed around. You can make this shape here, right?
Jaden Makari, please come to the office. Jaden Makari, please come to the office.
So we see a cube up here and a series of rectangular prisms, and then how they're staggered is an example of a structure using these solids here. Another one we have another one here is a castle, right? And a castle is this one here in particular is designed using many shapes that we've learned. You can see many cylinders up here, some rectangular prisms, some cubes, and so forth. Okay, so actually a really good example of a cylinder used here. So using these shapes here, we are going to design a structure. And this is actually similar to the lesson you did last week earlier on, where you had two-dimensional shapes and you had to design something like that. Well, now you're dealing with solids, right? Three-dimensional shapes. So I can just simply take some solids, I can make them larger. Now you'll be doing this on paper, and we'll have some manipulatives for you to use and so on. But the idea is to be able to draw. So I can take some solids and line them up, and this can do a really quick shape right here. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you build your shape, you don't want to, so for example, it might not be wise to put, actually I'll do it with the next one here. This one over here, for example. So for example, the cone, I'm going to take the cone. Well, if you're using a cone, it does not make sense to put the cone on top like this, because it will topple over. So again, dealing with our science unit on stability, you want to make sure all these shapes are stable and they're not going to topple over. So I can just simply take this cone here, and I know it'll be stable if I put it over top like that, right? Okay, and so on. Take the other one and throw it over here. But I think you get the idea. So using these shapes, you're going to stagger them on top into a nice design of your own. Okay. Afterwards, what you're going to do when you're happy with your design, that's where you get into the written work and so on, and the numbers and so on, is you're going to identify the shapes that you used, or the solids I should say. Identify the solids. Okay, so you would say I used 2 cones, I used 2 cylinders, I used 2 pentagonal pyramids, I used 2 rectangular prisms. Then you're going to identify all the different terms, and you can see we learned them up here. How many vertices or vertices were there in the entire design? How many faces? How many bases were there, and how many edges? Now the idea is that when you go to, so for example, the vertexes, the idea is, put it here. For example, if I take this shape here, we want to see some math here in the sense where you're going to multiply. Okay, so for example, I know that I have 2 pentagonal pyramids. If I figure out the vertex for just one, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I have 6 vertexes for this here. Well, we want you to think of multiplying. If I know I have 2, I want to multiply 6 vertexes times 2, which equals there's 12 for the pentagonal pyramids. Okay, so we want to see you start thinking like this, as opposed to just counting them up, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, same thing here with this shape. If I'm looking at the vertexes, I know there are 8. Well, if there's 8 vertexes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I know that I have 2 rectangular prisms. Well, 8 times 2, I could figure out to be 16, excuse me. Okay? So let's start to think like this. And then how many bases are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. And you would count them up. So here's your numbers, and you're going to be labeling and so on. And take our learning from solids into this fun activity here. Okay, so similar to like we did the other day with the two-dimensional solids, we're going to do that once again with the three-dimensional solids. So take some time, review this work here, and have a great evening.